So first category we're talking about is the locked category. This is what I was saying that these are the things that are ready to come out or have already come out that have been locked in or uh, performing as expected or better than expected.
Hmm.
So the first thing up is the Super Mario movie.
Yeah.
So pretty exciting for me. The reason I wanted to talk about it, and I'll share those thoughts. But first weekend of box office, it earned the number one spot with 146 million domestic. So that's not even international, just domestic. It had 146 million opening. It surpassed Ant Man and the Wasp, Quantum Mania as the highest grossing movie of 2023, and it's the best performing video game adaptation ever. It beat out Warcraft and Detective Pikachu, which is, in my opinion, quite a feat because both of those things, both Warcraft and Pokemon, have kind of a cult following. But obviously, Mario is older. Um, so you have all kinds of generations that are getting a kick out of this. This past weekend, it earned the number one spot for the third weekend in a row, and its global estimated gross is at 871.84 million currently. That's as of this past weekend, close on Sunday. Um, it did have the best third weekend domestically for any animated film ever, beating out The Incredibles 2, which grossed 46.4 million. And then domestically with 434.33 million, it's now the highest grossing Universal animated picture in North America, beating out the Minions Rise of Gru, which amassed $369.7 million. So we're talking overall $871.84 million globally. Domestically, 434 million. So just under or just over half was domestic, which means that internationally it's doing equally as well as it is here in the States,
Yeah.
which is crazy because historically speaking, movies usually do well here in the States but don't do as good overseas.
Yeah. Or they do decent here and then really well overseas.
Right. It's usually
They
one
do.
or the other.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on that is it's a generational thing. So we've entered the generation, our parents and stuff now, like me. And so we're taking our kids to see these movies that they'll get a kick out of, but we're also going to get a kick out of them because we grew up playing these games or, knowing these characters. So I feel like generationally we're seeing a shift in who's going to the movies and what movies they want to see. So I feel like this is going to change kind of the face of Hollywood because the big drama and action genres that were so huge for the last 20, 30 years, I feel like are going to slowly start phasing out and it's going to become more about the characters that we grew up knowing and loving. Like your James Bonds and stuff will still do good, obviously, because those are cross generation.
Yeah.
But like, for example, I have a note in here that at the same time, over the same weekends, the horror film Evil Dead Rise debuted with a domestic opening of 23.5 million compared to the 146 million for Mario. And Guy Ritchie's The Covenant earned just under 7 million domestically. So I don't know if you know or are familiar with the Guy Ritchie films,
No.
but like he directed both the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey
Oh,
Jr.
okay.
He directed Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, The Bank Job, High Roller, like all those kind of British comedy uh,
Yeah.
movies like that. Love them. I love Guy Ritchie. I think he's an amazing director. I love his cinematic style. The fact that Evil Dead, which again has a cult following, and Guy Ritchie movies didn't even compare to the opening of Mario just says to me that the genre of movies are changing.
I think I have a different outlook on the Super Mario movie
Mm-hmm.
than everyone else.
Speak on that.
Like, so I haven't personally seen the movie. I have nothing against the movie or anything like that. I do want to see the movie. I don't want to go to the theaters and see the movie. Expensive to go to the theaters.
Sure.
But like, I don't know. Like, it's doing good for video game movies. Obviously, I think it's what the number one video game movie of all time.
Yep.
Um, but like, I feel like it's not getting video game movie praise. It's just getting a lot of praise and how well it's doing.
Sure.
But like, I don't know. That's just like I feel like if it was anything else other than a Mario movie, no one would care.
So
Like
you
no
mean if
one
it was like
cares.
another Pixar or an animated movie?
Yeah, I don't think anyone would care. I really like no one cares about like movies typically unless they like break top 10. And then like don't get me wrong, it is doing very well. And it very feasibly will probably break top 10, which is crazy for a video game movie. But like I don't know. I think people are giving it a lot of praise. Like I was talking to Logan about it and he was like I think this movie like Super Mario is like what's going to bring people back to like movie theaters and stuff like that. I'm like, there's just so many movies that came out that were also pretty successful way before this one that brought people back to theaters. Like, I don't think Super Mario's doing it. Maybe it is for like a handful of people. I
Yeah.
don't think it's doing it for like the world of movies, if that makes any sense.
No, for sure. I mean,
And I
prior to
also,
this was what Top Gun Maverick and the
y-
Minions Rise of Gru
y-
or whatever. Those were huge. Like,
yeah, I mean, you got Top Gun Maverick, Minions: The Rise of Gru, Avatar, which did very well. It's like number 3 of top grossing movies of all time.
yeah,
I don't think like Super Mario or the Mario movie. I don't think it's like that's what's really bringing people back to the theater.
I agree with you on that.
And also, it like again getting a lot of praise for being like the best performing video game adaptation ever. It's a pretty fucking low bar, bro. Every video game movie has pretty much been trash.
Yeah,
Like except for Detective Pikachu. Warcraft was pretty god awful for its time. It got a lot of hate when it came out because it was a terrible adaptation.
it really was. Yeah,
And so like the bar is pretty fucking low. You just have to do a decent job and stay like on track and like really honor the video game for it to do well.
yeah. That's like some years back the Assassin's Creed movie that came out and flopped
Yeah.
really hard because they just
Yeah.
didn't stick to the game at all.
Like it's been pretty terrible except for like Last of Us and Mario. That's it. Everything else has been like just beaten into the ground because it sucked.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Like
I agree with you on the animated part too because like until researching this, I didn't know that the Minions Rise of Gru had the best third weekend. Like, because making it to the third and fourth weekend and still amassing money is
Mhm.
pretty rare
Yeah.
in the box
Yeah.
office. And Minions did it with 369.7 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so Mario surpassed that. But it's like you said, because Minions wasn't a Mario movie, you didn't hear a bunch of talk about how it was doing so well still in the third week.
Exactly.
It was
Exactly.
another animated movie.
It was just another animated movie.
I took the kids to see the Avatar movie in theaters. We haven't been to
Yeah.
see Mario. So it's like you're saying, it's not the movie that's bringing me back to the theaters. Avatar took me back to the theaters, but Mario
Yeah.
didn't.
Exactly.
But the problem was I took the kids to see Avatar, and we took one of my daughter's friends with us,
Mhm.
and spent $110 between tickets and refreshments just to get into the movie.
Yep.
What's going to bring people back to the movie theaters is stop charging $14 for popcorn and $8 for soda,
Yeah.
and $15 to $20 for a ticket.
Yeah.
Beyond that, for me, it's a whole other reason too that I'm not going. Obviously, it's the accessibility thing.
Yeah.
It's really super annoying to be like, okay, I'm going to the movies today, so I've got to put my contacts in because I can't wear my glasses. Because when I get there, I've got to put on the stupid glasses that make me look like Geordi from Star Trek,
Yeah.
and so I can have captions because they won't just show the movie on the screen with captions.
Yeah.
Like, have one designated theater that does a rotation of the movies that are in showing. What's going to bring people back is not going to be Mario. I agree with you. It's
Yeah,
great
like-
that it's doing great, but it's not
Yeah.
going to cause a resurgence in the movie industry.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I don't think Mario's going to be the resurgence into the movie theater, but I am excited to see what I think is a shift in the generations that are going
Yeah.
to the movies. I think
Yeah.
that it's a movie that both adults our age and their kids can enjoy. On to the next locked, okay? Dead Island 2. Have you seen any gameplay? Have you watched anything?
I have. I've watched a couple streams, couple videos, things of that nature.
So it released for what? New and older generation consoles. It released for the
Yeah.
PS5, the Series X, PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
Mhm.
Um, changes to the minor changes to the melee combat system. The DIY mod on the gear, hammers, blades, all that kind of stuff. And there's guns, pistols, shotguns, ARs, and SMGs. Um, One of the interesting mechanics they showed off in the gameplay trailers, as well as I've seen some people kind of using on the streams and stuff, is the frenzy ability. So your character has a zombie bite on their arm. Yeah, on their arm. And it basically lets you enter a state where you become like temporarily a zombie.
Gotcha.
And so it allows you to just kind of like when you start getting overwhelmed or it's a large horde or something, you could just kind of go into like a zombie state where you don't get like the motion penalties and stuff like that from getting hit. Like you basically just barrel your way through. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a cool idea. Is like you've been infected. You're trying to find the storyline is you and some buddies, you and some other castmates, if you will, are trying to find the root cause of the outbreak in hopes to find a cure. I'm assuming because you've been bitten, and
Yeah.
you're using the fact that you're turning into a zombie to your benefit. So it's kind of a cool idea, I think. So many zombie games and stuff and everything are all about avoiding being infected, and I think prior to this, it was just Dying Light was one where you were already infected.
Yeah.
But that one wasn't like it didn't give you any super focus or special abilities. You were just constantly hunting for antigen
Yeah.
so that you
Yeah. It
didn't
was
turn
more
into
of
a
like
zombie.
a hindrance than a help.
To push the plot line. Like, why would I just be running around this city consistently and continuously? Oh, because I'm trying to fight all these other clans that are stealing all the antidote,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to kill the people that are in charge because they're hoarding the antidote and all this kind of stuff. Like it pushed the plot along. Whereas
Yeah.
with this one, it just seems to be more of an additional thing.
Yeah.
It, so yes, it's probably the main focus of the plot because you're looking for a cure, but it doesn't hinder you in that the whole storyline is centered around having to find this one thing all the time, consistently.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the end goal, not the continuous goal.
Yeah.
They did say that there's 6 different characters you can play. Each character has their own voice and dialogue. Doesn't change the story, it just changes how your character acts throughout the story.
Hmm.
So you can get a character that's driven and energized and more upbeat about it, or you get another character that's like has a cynical point of view. They said that they wrote the characters to reflect the different play styles.
Yeah.
And then for zombies, there's going to be a variety of them too. Dan Buster confirmed there will be dozens of distinct zombie types, each with their own mutations, attacks, and hundreds of LA themed variants. I don't know what LA themed variants means.
Probably just close.
Yeah, because it takes place in LA, so I mean, I
Yeah.
get that, but does that mean we're going to have like movie star zombies? Like, is there gonna be a
Probably.
Bill Murray walking around? You know what I mean? Like Zombieland. Are we gonna have like zombie hookers?
Probably.
You know what I mean?
I
One of the Go ahead.
You can keep going. No, you can keep going.
I was just gonna say one of the things that I was excited about. Um, One of the gripes I had about the first Dead Island was it felt slow. Like it was cool and I loved the game. I did, but like the movement and stuff felt slow. Whereas IGN said that in this new game, Dead Island 2, it encourages constant movement with dodges, kicks, and jumps all being integral parts. So that makes me excited that it's got a little more of the kind of free run aspect to it. You know what I mean? Where it's like, let me run and jump off a wall, or let me drop kick this zombie, or slide through this hole. That was the thing I think that set apart Dying Light from the other games was you had this ability to evade zombies altogether instead of just fighting your way through
Yeah.
by using your movement. And so now I'm sure the movement won't be as intense in Dead Island because the focus of the game is a hack and slash gore game.
Hmm.
So they want you to fight your way through, but it's like I don't have to just sit there and just swing my machete at a horde of zombies. I can swing at one, kick another one, knock another one into a group or whatever, knock them back into an exploding barrel. Who knows? I just feel like adding the movement abilities to it, being a more integral part, makes it a little more interesting and creative in how you can actually kill the zombies.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I feel like between Mario and this, people are gonna just think that I hate everything.
Well,
Not. It's not true. I don't hate everything. The
I'm
next
locked and
topic
you're
after
heated, so.
the next topic, very excited about. I just want to be clear before I really go in on this topic. Next topic, really pumped for. No negative things to say. Super pumped. This topic, though, a lot of things I want to say. Um, this game was initially, I don't know if you know this, you probably do, was initially announced in 2014 at E3.
Yeah, 2014. Yeah.
Coming off the heels of Dead Island being very, very successful at the time and for a brand new IP. I played Dead Island 1 like it was going out of style.
Yeah, loved it.
I had a bug in my game that if I got to Act 4, my game would reset. And I did it about 8 times before they patched it. So I played a lot of Dead Island 1. A lot of super fun Easter eggs. Like you go find a skull across the map and bring it over to this spot, and you get some crazy like dev gloves that like blow zombies across the map. Crazy shit. Super fun time. For 9 years though, and I understand it wasn't 9 years of development time. I get that. They announced it out in 2014. For whatever reason, it was probably scrapped or put on a back burner and basically completely forgotten about. I don't think they were working on this game for 9 years. If they were, huge disappointment. They did nothing to revolutionize the genre as a whole. Everything they are doing, Dying Light 1 already did.
Yeah.
Period. Movement, the gameplay, all of it. Dying Light already captured all of that, and your goal was to up and do better than Dying Light / do better than Dying Light 2. That was your goal, and I don't think they did that. I don't think they did any of it.
Let's be honest, the bar for surpassing Dying Light 2 was very low.
Very low. Very low.
Dying Light 2 didn't even do as well. They didn't do as well on it, in my opinion, as they did on Dying Light 1. I love Dying Light.
Yeah, I also did. Also, it might be a factor that maybe people just don't want to play fucking zombie games right now.
It's not
Some
really
things
in.
are, yeah, it's not in because Dying Light 2 didn't do very well. Dead Island 2 is doing all right. But again, I just don't think that they added guns, and they added parkour, which Dying Light 1 already had, and that shit came out so long ago. I just don't feel like they did anything. They didn't. Nothing impresses me here. And I don't really understand the whole we've written characters to reflect play styles because different characters have different abilities and different skill trees and stuff like this. People are only playing the stuff that's overpowered. People don't care.
Yeah.
There's like a character, I was watching somebody. There's like a character and she's super underpowered, like she needs a buff. Like no one's playing her. But people aren't playing her because she matches a playstyle or a personality. People are playing someone else because they watch a YouTube video and this is the top 3 most overpowered builds for fucking Dead Island 2.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I just feel like they didn't do anything. They didn't impress me at all. I'm not going to spend $70 on the game. That's insane.
Yeah.
This is a $40 game at best.
I feel like this is a $30 expansion pack to Dead Island 1.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Oh, we have LA.
Yeah, we added LA as another city and we gave you some more movement mechanics. Like,
yeah, so it's just not. It's not really doing anything for me. I just feel like they missed many of the marks, in my opinion. Also, it's crazy that they waited 9 years and was like, "Here's a game." Like, where have you been for 9 years? Tell me what you've been doing for 9 years.
if we're being realistic, it had to be close to a decade in the making. Now, granted, I agree that they weren't working on it the whole decade, but if they announced it in 2014, that means they were coming up with the concepts and artwork and a release trailer and all that, or an announcement during the year prior to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you've had 10 years to figure out what you're going to do with the game and develop it, and you didn't do anything special. Now, the game still looks fun as far as just being a base game that, like, I would like to play through, but not for $70. I'll wait for it to go on sale.
Yeah, sorry, the game is $60. My mistake.
Okay, not for $60. Like I said, it feels like a $30 expansion. So when the game goes on sale for half off or more, then I'll consider getting it. I love that the lock session has turned into the heated session.
No, it's just a me problem, I think.
Well, Wait till we get to the heated session. This ain't
Wait, what is?
nothing. Don't
Oh
look ahead.
God.
Don't look ahead.
Oh God. I looked ahead. I looked ahead. It's
Oh,
just two things, and I'm pretty upset about both of them
yeah,
already.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Um.
let's wrap up the lock session then with
Yeah.
good news.
Yeah. Good
Okay,
news. Good news. Good
really
news. I don't want to.
exciting news.
I don't want to read through all of this because there is a lot.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go through all of it.
Um.
I'm gonna hit the
But
main wickets.
yeah. But if you want to hit the main stuff, I'll let you go.
Diablo 4 coming out in June. Yeah, you excited?
I am very excited. I am super, super excited. It'll be the only game I play for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Like I said a couple times over, I might just be a Diablo 4 girl now.
Yeah.
So they did a 90-minute live stream on April 20th, which I tuned in for and watched. Was very excited about, and I loved everything that they had to say, um, including the super secret squirrel news that they had at the end of the stream, which was a server slam May 12th through the 14th. So basically, they're saying before we go live, we want to take what we learned from the playtest, apply it, and then we want to test our servers. So just come overload our servers with the amount of people logging on and let us see how much capacity we can hold. So I love that they're doing that. So maybe I'm sure there will be queue times again, because I know in their first playtest we did, there was anywhere from 3 minutes to an hour and a half, like wait. Like the first day we tried to log in was like an hour long wait, and then it got better as the weekend went on. And then the second weekend, it started at like 30 minutes, and then obviously got better as the weekend went on. So I love that they're doing that before the thing goes live. So hopefully it minimizes the queue times and stuff when they actually go live. And then they took a lot of feedback from the playtest and applied it. That's going to be available during the server slam. So dungeon layouts, dungeon gameplay, changes to the classes, fix some UI issues, change some of the encounters and the sellers, and then did some obviously some just regular quality, general quality of life updates. Um, the big thing out of all of this that I'm excited about is the change to the dungeon gameplay and the dungeon events. Me personally, because playing through the playtests, because me, you, and Logan played through the entire story.
Yeah.
Sorry, the entire Act 1, the prologue
Yeah.
and the Act 1, which was available during the playtest. We each got at least one character to max level, which was 25? 20?
25.
25. Yeah. Got it to 25, did the world boss event, got all the little special beta things that you can get. You know, got our puppy in the backpack and all that, which they did add another one, which was available during the server slam, which is going to be the trophy from the world boss
Yeah.
that you can put on your mount.
What is the world boss called? Is it
Uh,
Shava?
yeah, Rashava.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Not excited about that.
Not excited about doing the world boss.
Not 5 levels under.
Why do you got to
Because
be 5 levels under?
Server Slam max level is 20, not 25. World boss is level 25.
Oh, they changed that. Does it say that in here? Did I make that note?
No,
They
no,
just
I
said
just
in the live stream. They just said that you had to be at least level 20 to get the trophy. You couldn't show
yes.
up under leveled.
You have to get to level 20 and then kill it at level 20. But that is the cap for the Server Slam is level 20.
Okay.
Doesn't make any sense, but that's fine.
It's
I feel
fine.
like you give it and then you take it away.
I think they're trying to see if they need to balance out the amount of levels you get in the first act. You know what I mean? So that you don't progress too fast through the game. They're trying to see if where they were at was good or if they can reduce it a little.
Yeah.
So that it's not so easy.
Yeah.
Because it did feel a little easy at times.
Mm-hmm.
Especially once we got to 25. Like, you could go fight that level 30 boss that it spawned in that one area over there and just farm him for gear or whatever and things like that. And then I think you saw or you showed me the video of the guy that 1v1 the butcher.
Yeah.
Which you just shouldn't be able to do, honestly.
There's a guy who killed the world boss hardcore solo.
How did he even manage to get a solo fight against the world boss?
Well, it's hardcore, so no one did it after like the second spawn
Sure.
because like the people who did do hardcore, basically all 12 people got one shot in their first playthrough or their first one through, and then probably the second time too because you can't make a single mistake or you die.
Yeah.
So pretty easy, honestly, to probably just get a solo instance of the world boss realistically, especially in hardcore, because people after like the third time were like, I'm good.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
not
feel
gonna
like
die
doing this
again.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they just kind of stopped. But yeah, he soloed it. I think with someone soloed it with a rogue, and then someone soloed it with a sorceress, I believe,
Nice.
and both in hardcore.
Yeah. Well, the
Which is
sorceress makes sense because the Hydra sorcerer or whatever was busted.
yeah,
Um,
busted.
and so was the necromancer.
Yeah,
Because I started a necro as my third character and was just flying through it. But anyway, yeah, the dungeon layouts and the dungeon gameplay are what I'm most excited about them changing. Because after we played through the whole prologue and did everything, the world boss, all that stuff, we were going through and doing all the dungeons. And exactly what they said they got the feedback on. I'm glad it wasn't just me. Apparently, a lot of players felt this way. But they said one of the most common feedback pieces was that players felt like they were doing a lot of backtracking within a lot of the dungeons.
yeah.
So they optimized a lot of the dungeons across the zones to minimize the need for that backtracking. So like Caldera Gate, Defiled Catacombs, Mallwood, the Rhyme Scar Caverns, the main ones that we tried to go through and stuff too, that
Yeah.
felt like you were just going in a circle. Um, they changed that, and then they increased the event spawn rate from 10% to 60%.
Which I don't know what an event means.
So an event in the dungeon is like the butcher. It's like when you get the mini boss, not like the butcher itself, but like the other mini bosses. I think we only had one that showed up in one of our dungeons, and it wasn't the butcher. It was just like a mini boss. We thought we were done, but then it turned out that wasn't the dungeon boss. We found the dungeon boss like in the next room or whatever, and we were
Yeah,
like,
but
oh,
was that
those are the events that they were talking about. At least in the live stream, that's what they were talking about.
is that like that mini boss we fought? Is that an event or is that just part of that dungeon?
No, it was an event, so it was a 10% chance for that or a mini boss to spawn within the dungeon outside of the actual dungeon boss.
Hmm.
So we went in because I had run that same dungeon that me, you, and Logan did. I did it solo earlier in the evening before you guys got on, and that
Mm-hmm.
mini boss was not in there.
Gotcha.
So those are like the events that happen, and it's not just mini bosses and like the butcher and stuff. It's the other things too, like the think Diablo 3, like the cursed chests and stuff
Yeah.
that would show up within like your
Gotcha.
dungeon
Yeah,
runs
yeah.
and stuff.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So it's like cursed chest events, different. I think we had one cursed chest event too, didn't we? Me, you, and
Um,
Logan. We did because it showed up in one of those little gated rooms on the side, and Logan accidentally clicked on it, and then we had to like fight off a whole horde of enemies, and we didn't know what was going on for a minute.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so those kind of events and everything will spawn. They increase the spawn rate from 10% to 60%, which I love because that's just more chance for gear. It's more chance to like see different parts and different aspects of it. And the dungeons, I get it. It's just Act One, and it was still in playtest, but they just felt a little bare. They felt
Yeah.
kind of empty almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like there
they did.
wasn't a whole lot of challenging enemies.
Yeah.
So I like that that's increased to 60% because it feels like it gives the dungeons more challenge and therefore more reward for completing them. And then the change to the gameplay that they made is one of the things to reduce the need to backtrack is that if there's a small number of straggling monsters, they'll seek out the player instead of you having to go back and look for them. So like if your objective for the dungeon is to kill all the monsters, then if you have like 2 or 3 left that you missed back at the beginning, they'll just chase you through the dungeon basically.
What's all I'm gonna say, I'm gonna interrupt here. They've done a lot of great, like a lot of changes, a lot of feedback, a lot of good changes. That was not the problem with the dungeons.
No.
I play a lot of Diablo. When I enter a room, a dungeon, and I look and I go, okay, what's my objective? And it says kill all the enemies, I'm gonna do my best to kill all the enemies right then and there, not halfway through the dungeon and be like, oh, I have to kill all the enemies. Oh fuck. I figure out pretty quickly what I need to do, and I'll just attempt to do that. Of course, you might miss one, you might miss three. That's not a big deal. The problem is they'll just let you run to the end of the dungeon, and then there's a key at the beginning of the dungeon that they were like, you didn't get that, dumbass. Now
Right.
run back through this empty dungeon and grab this key. I'm like, I'm at the end already. What they
Yeah.
needed to do, in my opinion, is just have like a barrier or something.
Damn, it was like that on the storyline mission too. Well, not even the
Hmm.
dungeon, but that last storyline mission where you're going through the castle. I had to go all the way back to the beginning to pick up one of the books that I missed
Yeah,
because it was in like one of the first little rooms, and it was, oh god, it was so annoying.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Like they need to do something that stops a player from going so far in a dungeon if they don't have the item that they're gonna need for the end dungeon.
yeah, which it feels like they tried to implement that a little bit because like if you remember some of the dungeons we went into, we had to go like up into the two or three different branches and
Yeah,
pick up the what was it, the animus stuff, and
yeah,
carry it back and deposit it before you could move on. So that's
yeah.
nice. I don't mind that. I feel like some people were getting aggravated by like, oh, I gotta go kill these two people and get their stupid boxes and take the box to the stand. And
I think
I
I
think
think the
that's better.
I think the problem that people were having with that is it was like there was like three dungeons in the whole game that were just repeated 25 times.
Yeah.
There was kill all the enemies, get all these boxes, or kill like these things and get a thing that's not a box, but it's basically a box.
Yeah, the animus.
And it was like, okay, so we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And of course, like 150 or 120 plus dungeons. And they talked about it and they said that, like, well, Act 1 has a dungeon theme, and those are its themes, is to, like, you go and you collect these things to open this door. That's its theme. But Act 2, Act 3, Act 4 is going to have different themes to
Sure.
their dungeons. But they're all going to, within those acts, be relatively similar, but those are those themes. So when you do go into the end game and you get one of those keys for a dungeon that makes it crazy difficult, you understand what you're getting into.
Yeah, you
You're
understand
like,
the
okay,
theme.
yeah, you understand the theme. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to this dungeon. This is the dungeon where I need to kill all enemies. So this is the dungeon where I need to grab this and grab this and grab this to unlock this. So I understand that completely. So I don't. I think they did themselves personally some disservice um, by doing it that way because it just made people
I th-
upset.
yeah, I think I see the idea, or at
Yeah,
least part of the idea behind that is because it could potentially break up. Like in Diablo 3, it was run these dungeons till you get all these set pieces and all these ancient legendary pieces, and then you're OP, and then you do the harder, you push the rift levels
hmm,
with one of two or three meta builds for your class. And I
yeah,
feel like doing the different dungeon themes means that if you get a key, you could say, okay, this is the theme for this one is having to be able to collect this stuff or whatever and get through the mobs and do it in a timely manner or whatever. So I need to equip my faster build for this character. You know, I need to
yeah,
change the skills that I'm using to match the dungeon type.
yeah,
Whereas if the other one's just kill all the enemies, then I need my one that's just straight brutality, like I'm gonna hack and slash my way through this. You know, my barbarian spin to win or whatever.
hmm,
So based on like, because I played a lot of rogue in the playtest. My first character I started and the one I played the most was the rogue, and I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I liked that I basically had two different builds and two different sets of gear that I would equip for the rogue, and one of them was a melee build and one of them was a ranged build. And depending on what the mission was we were going to do, whether it was a dungeon or a story mission or whatever, I could switch up my build to fit whatever the idea was of what we were doing. So if I was
sure,
playing with you and Logan, then I was running ranged and I was just dancing around the outside of the fight, making people vulnerable so that y'all did more damage and I did more damage and rained down arrows and stuff. If it was me playing solo, then I ran the melee build where I could just jump in, kill something, backstab another, and then go invisible and get the heck out of there for a minute to let everything recover and then go back and do it again. And it would build multipliers. Like
yeah,
that was that was cool. And so I feel like their idea behind the themes, different things for the dungeons, is to force players, if you want to do the best in that dungeon for the best time or the best completion or whatever that you want, you're gonna have to change your playstyle. Instead of just
For
having
sure.
one meta build for your character that you can just run through anything,
Yeah.
which I appreciate because that got really stale in Diablo 3. It's just like, okay, I got my build now. I just need like a one piece that needs to be ancient legendary, and I've got the max build, so I'm just gonna run through these rifts, these different rifts 15 times trying to farm this one piece of gear. Meanwhile, it doesn't matter what the rift is. I'm still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's run over here, put this thing down, or spin this way, or whatever. It's just the same process over and over again. So I feel like this
Yeah.
might force you to have to play differently depending on the dungeon type.
I don't think it will, but I could be wrong.
I don't think it'll drastically change it, but I do feel like they're trying to push people towards it being beneficial to be able to switch up your build.
Yeah, but I think every ARPG does that in some capacity, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, people still find a way to meta cheese it.
Yeah, because no matter what, there'll be a meta. But the only like, I'm excited about like the Diablo 4. I'm excited about like the end game, but to actually get to play the end game because I did get invited many months ago to the in game beta.
Yep.
And I just didn't play it personally. I was like, I don't want to like really spoil myself of this much, you know. I want to kind of go through the story and build a character out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's our plan, is to play through the whole story.
Yeah. Um, and so I didn't play it that much. So I'm excited to play like their in game and everything like that. Um, I think they've made some interesting choices. Like one of the things that they announced, I think we talked about it when you were here, is that there's like a pinnacle boss now. And they haven't really said like how you get to that pinnacle boss or what exactly that means, but it's basically like if you can beat that boss, then your class and your build is as best as it's gonna get, basically.
Sure.
So it's like the end boss of like your build, if that kind of makes sense. And they have that in like Path of Exile. Um, Path of Exile's end game is very similar to Diablo 4's end game. Diablo 4 just added extra layers to make it probably more annoying, realistically. Because, like in Path, I don't know if you ever played Path of Exile. Probably not.
I did not. No.
Yeah, so basically, they have a lot of different end games, but their main end game is called maps, right? So you get these little tokens that allows you to summon a map. You go into that map, and you have an objective in that map. Kill these enemies, do this, do that, whatever the objective may be. And then if you complete the map, you get a bunch of loot, and then maybe you get better maps. And then you can upgrade those maps, and those maps will have different affixes that affect you, that affect monsters, so on and so forth. And you basically complete maps, and they get harder and harder and harder, and you try to fill in like this map of maps, if that makes sense. And then eventually you get to fight like the pinnacle boss. That's like the end-all be-all boss of maps and PoE. And then like that's what people really strive to beat. So like if you see a lot of people that play Path of Exile, play like hardcore solo self-found, which means they don't trade with any other players. They're obviously playing hardcore, and their goal is to beat that boss, whatever build they're building. You know what I mean? And to perfect that build, trying to do the maps, trying to beat that boss. And once they beat the boss, it's like we did it. We beat the quote-unquote season, if you will. My objective. And of course, in like PoE, people have different objectives for their quote-unquote season. Some of them may just be like traders, and some of them want to experience like the season theme. Some people just want to do maps. You know what I mean? That's kind of what Diablo 4 is doing. There's maps, there's dungeons, which are maps. And it's like a lot of people are like, well, it's going to be repetitive, blah blah blah. Well, that's how PoE is. If you do this map, it's going to be the same map. It's going to be a lava map. It's a very similar layout. If you do that same map on a harder difficulty, it's going to be the same map, just with a different layout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, very similar. The only issue I have with the way that Diablo 4 does it is, and they have said this already, you will have to run to the dungeon. You have to go to the dungeon, which they just added an extra step. Like Path of Exile, You just go into your player base and you have a map room, and you just click on a pedestal and you just pull up a map and it opens like 10 teleporters and you go through one and you do the map. You know. So Diablo just added like that extra layer, which is probably fine because they are going for more of the MMO slash ARPG, where Path of Exile is just ARPG, no MMO.
Yeah.
So they want you to teleport to a closer teleportation, portal, run to the dungeon, and then get sidetracked by a world event or a world boss or whatever the case may be, right? They want you to get sidetracked, and I get that, and I think that is fine. I do wish they had a way to where you could just teleport to it, or you know what I mean, something like that. If you wanted to, again, I don't think it's a big deal, but I think there'll be some maps that are like dungeons that are so out of the way, you're like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
run so far to this dungeon. But again, I do like their end game. I think it will be very good. I think people will shit on it when it comes out, but I think people are pretty stupid because it is Path of Exile. Like if you went to YouTube and you watched someone like explain maps and Path of Exile, you'd be like, this is Diablo 4's endgame. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So I do think it is good. It works for Path of Exile. And the people in Path of Exile who don't want to do maps, they don't want to do that. They want to do different things. And you have like your seasonal update, which Diablo is going to be doing a season every 3 months or whatever it is. I think it's 3. Where they'll be adding a mechanic to the game.
I'm excited about. I love the idea of having live support.
Yeah. Having a live service Diablo game is going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
So there'll be people who only want to do maps and do dungeons and do that pinnacle boss, and there'll be other people who want to dabble and do the seasonal event. Like I think one of the last ones I played in Path of Exile was like a heist. So you would like go and you would hire people and level people up, and you would get jobs from people, and then you would like break into a bank and try to steal as much loot without getting caught as possible, and then like murder a bunch of fucking people to try to get out of the bank.
Yeah.
It was really cool actually, and you could do all kinds of different stuff with that. And they had one in Path of Exile that was literally farming, like no bullshit. You just went to a farm, like planted crops, and then came back and got a bunch of loot later. It was crazy. It was apparently you got like a bunch of crafting materials, and you can make like crazy crafts and stuff like that. It was basically just farming though,
Yeah.
And people ate that shit up. People loved it. And so I think we're going to get very similar things in Diablo 4.
I'd say as a whole, the MMO and ARPG genres, like the crowds that play those games a lot, are very easily entertained. If you promise them good loot, they don't care what they have to do to get there.
Yeah. They just don't want it to be boring, and they want consistent updates that change things.
Yeah. For
Which, I mean, seems like what we're going to get with Diablo 4, but let's, I don't want to get too excited.
Right.
They do let people down. They make dumb decisions like, this class balancing decision. The whirlwind skill now deals more damage and consumes more fury. What the fuck, man? Just make it do more damage. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
But they also reduce the amount of damage that barbarians take, too.
Yeah, that wasn't a problem. I was fine.
But they did. We touched on it earlier, talking about the world boss and the dungeon events and stuff and everything. They're reevaluating the butcher for difficulty, so that it'll present a greater challenge in world tiers 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And then same thing with the bosses. Like I'm gonna try my best here. Tchort, Malnok, Vaynard, and others were reevaluated for melee character difficulty. And that results in changes to attacks and fight mechanics, which is cool because you had people that had already mastered all, like the boss's moves, and they knew exactly how to like counter it. So I like that they're already changing up their attack chains.
Yeah.
So and the fight mechanics. So that's cool. They saw an issue and they already kind of responded to it. Now again, they might just be getting our hopes up because it's all pre-release, and then once it releases, it is what it is. Deal with it for 3 months, and then maybe something will change.
Yeah. I think like changing attacks and fighting mechanics as the difficulty goes up is good, but I think like they can't keep changing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it has to be constant at some point.
Yeah, I think people want to learn a mechanic and then learn to like just beat the fuck out of a boss without getting hit one time,
That's the big draw for like Dark Souls and
exactly.
all that is like you learn the boss's mechanics, and then you go through without taking any damage, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So the cellars got updated as well. So now dungeon events can occur in cellars, and then they're gonna consistently reward chests upon completion for just the cellars, which is cool
Which
because
is
cellars were pretty much pointless in the
I
first
don't.
playtest.
I was confused with the update when they said sellers will now consistently reward a chest upon completion. There wasn't anything in the sellers to complete.
Right. So basically,
I feel like half the
they
time.
that's because there was a chance for an event to occur in a cellar, just like in a dungeon. But if you went into the cellar and there was no event, then it did nothing.
Yeah, there should always be something.
Right. And so they said that they increased that, and then it'll consistently reward the chest upon completion of the events and such. So
Yeah.
because before it was like go in the cellar, and I went in there and then nothing was in there, and I was like, okay, cool, it's
Yeah.
somebody's basement. It's great.
And sometimes you would go in and there'd be like a person on a bed, and they're like, "Kill this person." I'm like, "Okay,"
Yeah.
and then you don't get anything. You're like, "Okay, we'll leave now."
Yeah, and then they did some general quality of life updates, which were, we saw that coming.
Yeah.
People already bugging the system. So like one of the ones they said was players could increase attack speed by move canceling attacks early. There was an issue where when you loaded into an area, the characters weren't immune and untargetable.
Mm,
So like you would die while you were loading in, basically.
yeah.
So they fixed that, so you have like basically a spawn timer where, kind of like in Diablo 3, if you just stayed at the gate and
Yeah.
didn't move when you entered a new floor, then things weren't supposed to attack you.
Yeah.
And then also they got rid of the reset dungeon button.
Which I don't.
I know you're about to say it doesn't make sense, but as we learned in the playtest, it didn't really do anything.
Yeah, I didn't.
It didn't.
But-
So I think they just got rid of it because it wasn't doing what they maybe had intended for it to do. Or
Yeah.
something. So it was like, well, this is pointless. So instead of trying to go through and completely change the code and fix all this, we'll just remove the button for now.
Now on here, in these like patch notes and stuff like that, I don't see anything about them fixing the issue where the check marks would be removed from dungeons when I reloaded the game.
Right. When you quit the game and then log back on, it gave you no completion status for the dungeons.
Yeah, so you just didn't know which ones you completed.
Yeah. Like it
So
still said you had 13 of 25 done. You just didn't know which ones.
Yeah, you just didn't. You just had to guess,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of weird that there's
Write
nothing
it
in
down
there.
on the side.
Yeah. Yeah, I really am excited for Diablo 4. I think I mean,
So far, it's been great.
if they do everything they've promised to do, and they continue to be as communicative,
Yeah.
is that as they have been, which
As
they said
responsive.
which is said they said that their goal is to do like a dev live stream, like I think they said once a month. I think
Yeah. So they'll
once the
probably
game
do
launches.
a dev live stream to talk about hot fixes, and then like the month before the new season, they'll talk about what the new season's going to be,
Yeah, exactly.
which is cool.
Which is
I
good,
love
yeah.
that.
And I'm excited to see a lot of the stuff. I'm just excited to see like the Paragon board. Really interested to see what they do for leaderboards because they haven't touched on that at all.
Right. I think that's
They
going to
ju-
be.
They just kind of said leaderboards are coming in season 1.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's probably going to be post season 1 release, which would be cool if they talk about the leaderboards in the live streams.
I just
That's
don't
kind of like
know.
a shout out, like recognition, That would be like if they
Well-
talk about who's on the leaderboards and who's doing what, not all that kind of stuff. That would be just like a little 3 minute segment in the live stream where they're like,
I mean,
"Oh,
yes and no. It all depends on how they handle it. If they're fucking lazy pieces of shit and don't ban people who are botting, then none of those leaderboards matter.
sure."
Also depends on what capacity does a leaderboard mean. It doesn't impress me if the leaderboard is like Diablo 2 leaderboard where it's like who got to max level first. I don't give a fuck. I work 10 hours a day, bro. I don't care that you hit max level before me.
Yeah.
I actually care so little. I think less of you. Like do something else. Like you're not impressing anybody by doing that. So in my opinion, it just in what capacity are there going to be leaderboards, Is it going to be like dungeon completion times with certain classes or again, I don't know.
Yeah,
So I'm interested to see like what those actual leaderboards are.
sure.
Um,
Yeah, I
To-
think it's
to get
I think
an
it's a
idea.
viable point. Is
Yeah.
what are the leaderboards going to consist of? Because
Yeah. Like I said, if it's like
there's a
who got to
lot of
level 100 left first, it's like,
yeah, there's a
I'll get there eventually.
lot of games out there that have quote unquote leaderboards that
Hmm.
I absolutely do not care about. I just never
Yeah,
check because it
yeah,
doesn't mean anything.
hmm
It just doesn't account for anything good whatsoever.
yeah. But
And there's no like ranked system in here. So is there a leaderboard for like PvP?
there might be. Yeah,
You know
that's the
what I
thing.
mean? Like that would be cool if that's a
Yeah,
thing. They just had different leaderboards. So
yeah. It'll be interesting. Like if they have leaderboards and they're like a bunch of them and they're for a bunch of different things, cool. That's awesome. Um, like even if they did like world's firsts for certain things, you know what I mean?
sure.
That'd be cool. Um, like oh, you unlocked the hardest difficulty first, or who completed their pinnacle boss first. Like that stuff's kind of cool to me. Um, I don't know.
But
So
again,
it
I
is
feel
just
like that's so time based. That's
yeah,
how
it
much
is.
time you
It
have
is
to play.
exactly. It is very time based. It is. So it's like, that's cool you did it, but I probably could have done it too. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. If I had 8 to 10 hours a day to play the game, I probably could have done it too.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see. I am interested, and I do hope the game is good. Um, I do like that there is like an end boss, quote unquote, for your character, because I feel like personally that might be where a majority of my time is spent.
Sure.
Because I'm a big hardcore guy. I do enjoy playing hardcore, so it'd be fun to like beat that boss with different classes in hardcore,
Yeah.
um,
I'm
and stuff like that.
definitely gonna play hardcore in Diablo 4
Yeah,
because it's
that,
just I like the combat style so much better,
yeah,
and so it feels like an actual reward for doing well in hardcore. Whereas like Diablo 3, it was like, oh, I got stuck on a random invisible rock in a corner somewhere and then got one shot
yeah,
by the game. It wasn't even an enemy. You know, there's not an
yeah.
enemy
The
anywhere near
game,
me, and the game just one
yeah,
shots me. And my hardcore character's gone.
yeah. The game just decided, you know what? You've been doing too good.
Yeah, you need to
Delete.
die. Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
that's yeah. I am very excited. Very excited. I hope they do great. Um, I hope it's a really good game. Even if it's a super pay to win game, I'll probably still play it. I'm not gonna lie to nobody.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be a pay to win game. They've been pretty front with all of that. I know a lot of people have their reservations because of Diablo Immortal for some reason, even though it's not the same game. They share a name. That's it. Um, so I don't think it is going to be pay to win. So, but even if it is, I'll probably still play it
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
I probably buy some shit.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. I'll
Let's
probably
be
buy
honest.
some shit.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
speaking of pay to win and things that get us angry,
okay.
perhaps it's time to move into the heated category.
Oh god.
We got the lockdown. Now it's time for the heated. Prepare
Oh
yourself.
god.
So let's talk about X Defiant.
Oh god.
We're in the closed beta.
Yeah.
We've been playing a little bit.
Yeah. A little bit.
So here's the notes that I have on there, and I'll just go through them, and then I'm gonna let you rant. So my thoughts after playing it the times that we've played it. The UI is fairly clean, but definitely needs some touch-up work. For example, when I'm playing on mouse and keyboard on my PC for X Defiant, I can't select my classes at the beginning of a game or if I change class with my mouse. I have to use like WASD to like move through the menu. Needs some touch up, but the UI layout, the way it looks, is fairly intuitive, pretty clean. Everything's clearly labeled. There's nothing hiding behind something else like there is in like Call of Duty and stuff where you like open your menu and you can't click on something because it's behind something else.
Yeah.
I like that there was free switching for controller and mouse and keyboard, so like I could start playing a game on controller and be like, man, I'm just not feeling it this map, and just set down my controller and then start playing with my mouse and keyboard. So the freedom to switch between the two is fun. I think that's a very basic thing for people playing on PC that play with both inputs that should be included in most games. But like, for example, Call of Duty, MW2, you got to back out of the game, switch your input mode, and then re-queue. You cannot change your input mode while you're even queued. And that's just really annoying to me. The server connections need some polish. And what I mean by that is it feels like a lot of games are really ping intensive. Like if you have 75 ping and you're fighting somebody with 10 ping, you're gonna see a difference. In this game, I would be on 15 or 20 ping and fighting people with like 35 or 40 ping, and see a big difference in what their character model was doing on my end versus obviously what it was doing on their end.
Yeah.
Um, so it felt like I was dying to people who had their back to me. You tuck in behind a wall and then die a second after, 2 seconds after. It's like they could still see you on their screen, but you were clearly like There's a couple times I'd run around the corner and going into another doorway and would die, and it would show the person that killed me, and they were on the street from where I was 3 seconds ago, and there's just no way they could see me anymore on my screen. So like I feel like server connection issues. The maps are fairly decent for the most part. There's a couple of them that I just absolutely can't stand. Like I think it's called Arena. Is that one that's got? We played Dom on it a few times. A, B,
Yeah.
and C, and B's like up on that pedestal in the middle, and it just looks like a laser tag arena. Um, it's cool. I like the concept, but I feel like it would be for a different game mode than like just a straightforward like gunplay game mode. When you've got 6 on 6 and they're throwing out shield walls and using invisibility and they're popping their healing ultimate and it covers a certain radius, that radius covers the whole point. So all of their teammates on the point get that healing bonus. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's not even about like, oh, that's the point is you play together as a team tactically. They have no choice.
Yeah.
The healing aura takes up half the map. So it's like your teammates don't have to play with you and be smart. They can be dumb and still get the bonus. So I just feel like it's a little too small for like having the abilities like that. But the maps, for the most part, I think are fairly decent. We played a couple of the control ones where it's like Rush in Battlefield, where you push forward, capture 2 points, it unlocks two more, and then you keep pushing forward throughout the map.
Yeah.
Those I feel like they did a really good job on the maps. They feel like they transition and they flow really smooth. I feel like
Hmm.
those maps are actually pretty good. Um, I'm hoping for the play modes on the full release there's going to be more, because right now it's just escort, control, dom. I believe the first playtest, closed playtest we did of it, they had search and destroy,
They did. They did.
which I really actually enjoyed. I thought it was really pretty good in this game because you could use the different classes to their advantages and stuff like that. So it was good. I put on here that the gunplay feels familiar and smooth. That does not mean good.
Yeah.
The gunplay, it's smooth in the fact that it's not clunky when you're running around or moving, and aiming down sights is pretty smooth. But I feel like there's a lag almost. Like the ADS multiplier, I can't seem to get it right. So like if I'm just looking around, it feels like my sensitivity is really high. And then as soon as I ADS, even though my multiplier is set for 1, which should be exactly the same,
It's not.
it's not. It feels like
Yeah.
my gun's in mud, or it has
Hmm.
like rubber bands on either side of it keeping it in place.
Yeah.
And so I found tracking to be difficult to do in this game. It sounds like I'm a noob complaining like, oh, I can't track enemies. Yo, go check out the COD gameplay or the Counter Strike gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I track people. That's what I do. And I feel like the tracking in this game was significantly different than it's felt in most other games.
Definitely
Um,
agree.
the weaponsmith is familiar and pretty easy to use. Click on your gun, click on the attachments, choose the barrel you want, the sight you want, whatever. Very straightforward. I feel like it's hard to fuck that up. But the thing that I do like about the weaponsmith is it doesn't just tell you like, oh, this affects your aim down sight speed, but it increases your sight picture. Like, cool. What does that mean for me? They have a button at the bottom of the weaponsmith menu that's additional information. So if you click on it, it gives you actual statistics. Like your sight picture is increased by 0.5%. Your ADS is decreased by 10%. You know what I mean? Like it gives you more information and more breakdown of like what the attachment's really going to do for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you played with that at all,
I
but
did not.
it was actually, in my opinion, that was a good thing. I felt like if most games where you can put attachments on weapons gave you the more information, it would be easier to find the loadouts and the builds that you like. Because like even in Call of Duty right now, I just Like I go to Shotzi's stream and I'm like, what attachments is he using on his gun? Okay, cool. I'll put those on. I don't know what they do for me. Like, oh, it says that my recoil stabilization is better and my ADS speed is slower.
Yeah.
Well, what does that really mean? You know what I mean? Like, how much effect is it having on my recoil? Because even even the settings get so finite in that game because it's like I'll give you my loadout in Call of Duty and I'll have hella recoil and then I'll die and I'll watch your kill screen and your gun is just like a fucking laser beam and it has no recoil and no kick to it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
he's using the exact same loadout I am. Why is there such a difference? So I think it's good to get that overall information back. I think it makes it easier.
Yeah.
So that was my attempt at saying the goods about X Defiant. Now let's talk about the bad.
Mm.
I feel like it can be summed up in one sentence.
Not the COD killer.
Not the COD killer.
Like, I don't know what these idiots on TikTok are saying, but they need to get off TikTok and go back to their 9-to-5 jobs because their opinions are stupid. It's not the COD killer.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. We're into the heated.
It's just not, and people are so stupid. Like, I feel like Call of Duty has been trying to fucking kill Call of Duty for 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's not fucking working. You think they're not listening to you? No, they're listening. They're just not doing it because they don't give a fuck about this franchise anymore. And they're like, whatever.
They're just
we'll release another
it,
one.
Yeah, out of obligation.
Yeah, it'll make fucking $4 billion again, so I guess we'll release another one. I'm so happy our entire company is pigeonholed into this one game and we can't do anything else.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, Call of Duty can't even fucking kill Call of Duty, and they fuck up year after year after year after year. It is consistent.
Yeah.
And they can't even kill it. So, no, X Defiant and their pretty shit movement, it's decent movement, but it's not, it's a weird fluid. It does not feel like a AAA title, which I realize it does not. It doesn't feel like a AAA title. It feels like Polygon. You know, like the movement is good, but there's something that's not jiving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a weird like AAA disconnect with movement.
Yeah. It's just a hint of clunky.
Yeah, it's a hint of clunkiness, and you're like, what? I don't know what's going on here.
And it's like, okay, so they took like the movement idea from Call of Duty of like slide canceling and then like slide jumping and stuff.
Yeah.
But then they applied like Apex physics to it. Because, like, if you're in this game and you're running and you slide towards stairs that go up, then you don't get any movement. Like, the guy just stops. Like, he slid into, like, you know, a pile of sand.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. That's realism. But if you're going to give me a game that's based on movement, you can't give me that level of realism, too.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you want to say, oh, it's realistic, I've been there, brother. I've been in combat, and I am not combat sliding around corners.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
It happened one time.
not a single time. Not never.
Yeah.
So, you can't
not
say,
hitting that
oh,
Grogu
we're going,
slide.
Yeah. You can't say we're going for realism and then give me slide boosting.
Yeah.
If you're going for realism, then you're trying to make like a Tarkov style game.
Yeah.
Nobody's slide canceling in Tarkov.
Yeah. You slide cancel on Tarkov and break your goddamn leg.
Yeah, and then boom, your character's gone. You know, you're trying to hobble your way to the extract and you're bleeding out. Yeah. Because you forgot to bring bandages.
Yeah, but I don't know. X Defiant, it's decent, but that's it. It's decent. I've played much better, not AAA first-person shooters in recent times. Roblox, the Call of Duty Roblox thing is it also has the weird clunky movement thing where it's not really jiving. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
The game looks better. The gun plays better. I mean, all of it.
I don't understand the fascination in the past few years with adding in all these characters with abilities.
Yeah.
I blame Overwatch, honestly, but
I blame Rainbow Six Siege.
Well, yeah, that was a big one. But at least Rainbow Six Siege managed it to a degree.
You would think.
It was like there was strategy to it. With X Defiant, everybody just throws on the healer and runs around with an extra 20 health until they get their ultimate, and then they have like
extra 100
unstoppability.
Health. Yeah.
And there's some part of that that I'm not grasping or understanding because like they pop their ultimate and I shoot them in the back for a whole mag. They turn around and one tap me. I pop my ultimate and they two tap me coming around the corner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't get it. Like, what was the difference? Am I that bad? And I know that I'm not that bad, but
You got to stand in it. I don't know if you knew that.
as the healer,
Yeah. So when you pop your ultimate, she drops a ring on the ground. Like she drops her
yeah,
backpack on the ground.
yeah.
You
She
have to
pulls the strings
stay.
on her backpack and it drops it on an
Yeah.
area, a radius on the ground, and then
Yeah.
you stay in that radius.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like it takes a couple seconds to actually kick in.
It definitely does.
So it's like, it's all about timing, I guess. And
Yeah. I don't know. The movement was meh to me.
the
The
abilities to
ping
me,
issue.
it was a cool idea, but I feel like they overdid it again.
Yeah.
Like most other games. Like Valorant, when it first came out, the abilities weren't so ridiculously a crutch.
Yeah.
Like they were complementary, but they weren't a crutch. And that was what everybody was saying. It was like, well, there's characters with different abilities in Overwatch. Well, yeah, but the whole game hinges around using those abilities correctly. And in
Yeah.
Valorant, they were like flashbang smokes and molotovs in Counter Strike. They
Yep.
complemented the gameplay and let you set up like set pieces.
Mhm.
But now in Valorant, there's so many different operators with so many. Like the newest guy they added, the Gecko guy. Like he basically just does every other operator's abilities.
Yeah.
He's got a
He's
flash,
got a
a
molly.
Molotov, a
Yeah.
diffuser, a planter. His
Yeah.
ultimate is a stun that like locks him in place for 5 seconds or whatever. Like, what doesn't he do?
Yeah.
The only thing he doesn't do primarily, like directly, is give you vision, like Fade and Sova. But if you throw his shit out, it gives you vision because it's
Yeah.
like it'll look at the enemies and spit on them, or if it's the little dude, he'll go harass them.
Yeah.
So it's like he does everything, and so
Yeah.
you equip 5 of the correct operators, and you can control the entire map from your spawn.
Yeah.
If you wanted to. And so I just don't know what the obsession is with having all these abilities.
I agree. Definitely agree with that.
Bring back fucking, what was that game? 1942 or whatever. That
Battlefield 1942.
was it. That Battlefront, Battlefield. I don't
It
remember.
was Battle. I think it was
Or
Battle.
was it Battle Cry?
No.
I don't know. It was like the Counter Strike style game, search and destroy style game.
Oh, Battalion.
Battalion 1942.
Yeah.
Bring that game back. It was very straightforward. You know,
Very straightforward. Yeah.
loved it.
I don't know. Yeah, I just feel like
Maybe we're just jaded because we can't keep up with all these young whippersnappers.
another thing though is the problem is I can't keep up. These kids ain't shit these days. I mean, I guess they'll beat my ass in Fortnite, but that's it.
Yeah,
Hey, these kids ain't got nothing on these grandpa hands. All right. I've been out here in the streets for a minute. These kids are like, you can slide cancel in this game. I'm like, I've been slide canceling for 20 years. Fuck out of here. No, I just feel like a lot of polish. I feel like X Defiant can be good. But I don't know if they're going to be able to get there. And I think it'll be hot and it'll be popular for a week when it comes out. But then the servers will be dead and closed in a year. Not going to gain any traction. It's not really going to. They'll pay Shroud and Tim the Tatman to stream it and Dr. Disrespect, and it'll get a boost in players, but at the end of the day, it's just not.
It doesn't have survivability.
It doesn't have survivability. Yeah, exactly.
Which is sad because really,
yeah.
there could be, honest to God, there could be a COD killer. Because like you said, COD's been trying to kill itself. And the only reason it can't is because nothing else is there to take its place.
Yeah.
And so people are trying so hard to make this next game-breaking, genre or this next just awe-inspiring game to take over Call of Duty. All you got to do is make a steady, stable, reliable game that's easy and fun to play as an arena shooter and wait for COD to self-destruct. Because 3 months after the next COD release, people are going to hate it like they do every other one. And they're going to be looking for something else to play. And if your game is stable, it's reliable, and it's got good mechanics, then people will flock to it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I feel like we just can't get that. Nobody will make just a regular ass game, or just a regular arena shooter.
Yeah.
And
They have to have a gimmick.
Yeah, and then the next year when COD releases their new version, it'll get a boost again for that first couple months, and then everybody realizes that it's trash, just like the last 6 have been, and then they'll come back to your game, or they'll go back to another game, or whatever it is. But like, that's the problem, is nothing feels as reliably. COD just meets your expectations.
Yeah, I think the problem is like with like Counter Strike and Valorant, for instance. Like Counter Strike was fine where it was. They didn't have to do anything for the next like 25 years.
Yeah.
Update wise, add a couple more skins, add a couple more cases, bring in the money, add a couple more stickers, and we're chilling.
Yeah.
But with Valorant coming out, and people did leave Counter Strike to play Valorant.
Absolutely.
People, I think, still are leaving Counter Strike to play Valorant. I think there are also people who only play Valorant, and they probably have now dabbled in Counter Strike and like it more. Not females for some reason. Strange. Did you know Valorant has about 40% of the player base is female?
Yeah, it has one of the larger.
40%.
It has one of the larger female player bases.
They might have the largest.
Yeah.
Besides, like, The Sims.
Animal Crossing.
And Animal Crossing. Yeah, it's crazy. Counter Strike is like 5% female.
Yeah.
Anyway, but with Valorant coming out, it pushed Steam or Valve to do something, to do better. Let's release Counter Strike 2. Let's up the graphics. Let's up the fidelity. Let's add a little razzle dazzle, like with the smokes. You know?
Yeah.
It didn't change the game that much. It doesn't change the game that much.
They don't have to.
But being able to like throw a grenade into the smokes and making the smoke dissipate and then be able to get picks that way adds a little bit extra layer that changes the game just enough, but not too much. But adds a little bit of razzle dazzle.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah.
The problem with Call of Duty is there is no competitor to it. There is no one that is even close. There's no one that's stealing Call of Duty players. Besides Call of Duty. The only person pushing players away from Call of Duty is Call of Duty.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no one pushing that genre further and then pushing Call of Duty to be better or to do greatness or to innovate.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Battlefield's not doing it. I'm sorry. Battlefield shit the bed.
Oh my god.
With 2042. I mean, shit all over themselves, basically. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, it was a big time letdown.
Yeah. And so there's just nothing like pushing Call of Duty to be better.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by it meets expectations, is we expect it to be bad, and it is consistently bad, but there's nothing else to play in its...
Exactly, in that genre.
Yeah.
I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again in case y'all missed it. All you TikTok kids just need to go back to your jobs, okay? You don't know what's going on. You don't understand how the game industry works. You're not the Call of Duty killer. You're stupid.
Which moves us on to our final piece of heated.
The actual Call of Duty killer. No, I'm just kidding.
Destiny 2 Lightfall. It came out like a firecracker. A little riz, a little pop, a lot of disappointment. In my opinion.
That's what they do.
So I got the pictures here for you showing the pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So still, some of them are reduced price. You know, it was $36, now it's $25.99. But then you still got the Steam Key one that's $44, $58, $70, and $85.
Yeah.
The prices on Steam are pretty similar. Like if you just go to straight Steam, it's like $30, $45, and then the big boy package is like $80 or $85 or something like that. That's a hefty price for some, you know, like one exotic, some cosmetics for your gear, and then the same storyline that you're getting for $25. The overall reviews on like the ratings, 6 out of 10 for IGN, 68% on for PC Gamer, and a 5 out of 10 on Steam. And then the audience rating summary is an average of a 2.3 stars out of 5. I did put 2 reviews on here. I'm not going to read through both of them, but one negative review and one positive review. The reason I put them on here is because in the negative review, he said my review will be condensed into 3 sections: story, gameplay, and end game. And then he goes into the story, and he basically talks about how the story is just a huge letdown. Then you go to the positive review, and he opens it up and says, honestly, this expansion is very underrated. The only thing that's bad is the actual campaign story. So it seems in negative and positive reviews, unanimously across the board, people are concurring that the story that they added is awful.
Yeah.
It's short. It doesn't live up to the hype. It doesn't answer any questions. It doesn't progress anything along other than like, oh great, there's gonna be more to do with the witness or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, Smoky Head. Um, they added two new like main character type people, like to like Zavalas and Cades and
Yeah.
all that. They added two of these like sky people from the new location or whatever. Apparently, they were very brief. They didn't impact the story all that much, like just a certain part of the story. And then there wasn't a lot of attention given to them, so we don't really know anything. Apparently, all the lore, because usually in Destiny, the lore lies behind things that you find, whether it's items, weapons, gear, whatever. You read the lore behind it, and it gives you more to the story. It's still very convoluted and cloudy and not really easily understandable. And what you
Yeah.
do get just leaves more questions than answers. Um, I think the playtime through the new campaign story that's added was supposed to be like 9 hours of campaign story,
Yeah.
and people are completing it in like 4 or 5.
Um,
The raid, new raid supposed to come out. It's raid. It's a raid for Destiny. You know what I mean? Like that's supposed to be like take your 6-man fire team or 5-man fire team, whatever it is. I can't remember, but I think it's 6, and push them to the limits. You know what I mean? Like you're supposed to master raid mechanics and encounters and learn sequencing and timing and have the right weapons to equip and plant your flags and reload your ammo and get your supers and all this kind of stuff. Apparently, the new raid was the world's first completed it the first day it came out, which is to be expected, because those are the world's first clans. You know what I mean? Like that's what they do. They push for that world's first completion raid.
what was it though? Like 2.5, 3 hours?
Yeah, it was something stupid easy.
Uh,
So the only thing I can compare this against is the Witch Queen, because that's the most recent release that came out
mhm.
before Lightfall that was worth anything. And in my opinion, Witch Queen was good. It was like a solid like 20 hours of additional story and gameplay. There was obviously the raid that came out with it. There was a couple dungeons that released throughout the seasons. Um, Several new exotics. All the new cosmetics and looks for your guardians and stuff and everything. New ghost cosmetics, new ship cosmetics, sparrow cosmetics. Um, their whole nother world was introduced. Savathon's throne world. There was public events and new raids like the Vanguard, not raids, but strikes that came from it. Like all this kind of stuff that was added. Great. And there was a lot of focus on the new world, Savathun's throne world. Apparently the new world they introduced, Neptune, I think it is, that this story
Mhm.
takes place on, is minimal time. You spend minimal time there. It's not very big. It's like a city in Assassin's Creed, basically. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like
Yeah.
it's not very big at all. Um, and it's apparently just holds no real weight or bearing to anything. There's like one part of the story where there's like an attack on that city, or there. So basically, in the story, there's something that exists there on Neptune that the witness is trying to claim, and he sends, uh, what's his name? The big fucking brute dude,
I don't fucking know his name.
Cal or something like that. I can't remember his name now for the life of me. But he's been, and that's another one of my issues with Destiny. But he's been one of the bad guys for like 6 times now.
Yeah.
He's the witness sends him to go collect it and all this kind of stuff. So that's what takes place on Neptune. Is like they're trying to claim this thing, and we the Guardians are trying to keep them from getting it. But apparently, it was just very lackluster. The whole DLC, they did the announcement for it and all this stuff and promised all this stuff. And Strand, now granted, Strand looks really cool. The new supers.
Yeah.
Well, the Hunter one looks really cool because it's like the chain knife thing.
Mhm.
Looks super dope. Apparently, the other ones are not as good. The Titans get like knives on their hands, basically. Which, okay, that's the same thing as the art class. You get the thunder fists.
Yeah.
Like, it's stupid. And then the sorcerer, the warlocks get the strand like shit where they like lock people in place and stuff.
Yeah.
It's dumb. But the hunter one looks pretty cool because you can, and the grapples that's cool too. But that's like the only saving grace to the whole expansion is strand.
Yeah.
So overall, in my opinion, just an extreme letdown.
Yeah, another Bungie letdown. They know how to do that. I
Well,
hate. I hate. I hate Bungie. So.
they're almost as bad as Call of Duty at this point. It's just you every time, which we said it when they announced Lightfall. We both said it that we were gonna wait and see how it did before we bought it or before we played it or anything like that. And I'm so glad that we did
Yeah.
because I
It's just.
could not see spending 45 or hell, I couldn't see spending $30 for 4 hours of gameplay and a new exotic.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do that, just go into your little marketplace where I buy silver and buy cosmetics and stuff, and just make the exotic for sale in there for $15. I'll buy the exotic that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Lightfall's $50, and the Lightfall Plus annual pass for $100.
That's so ridiculous. I'm gonna pay $100 for a year's worth of content. Then I better get a year's worth of content, and I don't mean a new season every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Because that's stupid. That's the seasons are just part of the game. I'm not gonna pay to have access to the seasons.
Yep.
I bought the game. Why would I pay additional money to access part of the game?
Yeah. I don't know. I think Destiny, for most people, I feel like has run its course. There's a lot of people like online, like let's just fucking get it over with and do Destiny 3 already.
Yeah.
But that's not gonna fix. That's not gonna fix the issues.
It's
So
not.
it's not a game issue. It's a Bungie issue.
Yeah.
That's being realistic.
Well, they were just really milking it for all the money they can get out of it.
Oh yeah, they really. Yeah. They got to.
I paid when Destiny 2 came out. I bought the $100 big boy package for Destiny 2,
Yeah.
and then I bought the expansion for, well, every expansion up until Lightfall. I've paid for the expansions, and any of them that came out with like the big boy bonus ones, like Witch Queen and all that and everything, where you could pay the $70 or $80 to get all the additional stuff. I bought those too. So I've probably spent $350 buying the same game for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at some point you got to stop charging me for these DLCs. You've gotten the money out of me. I've bought this game 4 times over,
Yeah.
and it's no dying light. You know what I mean?
True.
So I do kind of miss the PvP like gunplay and stuff and everything from Destiny. I always thought that was its strongest point for me because I'm a PvP player.
Yeah.
In most games, I enjoy PvP more than PvE scenarios. But then it got so twisted up in the same thing as most of these other games where it's like if you don't have these meta guns, then you can't hang.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of killed it for me. You know, you
Yeah,
try to
I
do
agree.
the trials runs and stuff, and 3-4 games into your win streak to get your 7 wins on your card, you run into a team that's all running fucking linear fusion rifles and some stupid pulse rifle or something as a secondary, and they're just one-shotting you from across the map. And not even with like a sniper. They don't even have to aim down sights with the linear fusion rifles. They just hip fire it across the map. You know what I mean? So like if you snipe me out of spawn, even in Destiny, I'm like, all right, good on you. You hit a sniper shot. You had to aim down sights. You had to hit the flick. You had to do whatever. You know, catch me in my movement. You hit the shot. Good for you. But all these meta weapons that one shot, and it doesn't matter what they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just that killed it.
Yeah. I agree. I definitely agree with that.
I think that they could have fixed that issue with the meta stuff if they would have just made the game where grinding for certain weapons was for the PvE and the raids and stuff. Once you got into PvP, the classes had a set amount of damage. Hand cannons did this much damage. Shotguns did this much damage. Fusion rifles did this much damage. Snipers obviously are one shot, headshot, whatever. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, but they were all the same. So it's like if you went in with a hand cannon and a submachine gun and whatever your power weapon was, you were setting up for a medium to close range fight. If they're
Yeah.
running a sniper and a fucking pulse rifle, then they can keep you at range and do more damage. That makes sense to me. But if I'm closing the distance on you with a SMG or a shotgun and you just turn and one shot me by hip firing a linear fusion rifle at me, come on. Like
Yeah.
what advantage do I have? So basically, you're telling me that I have to run that linear fusion rifle or not win.
Yeah.
There's no way to get the advantage from that. Whether you're long range, medium range, short range, that gun wins.
Yep.
So
I agree.
Destiny 2 has just been a letdown for a while now.
Yeah, for a couple of years.
Since release, basically.
Probably continue to be a letdown.
Yeah. It ain't no Destiny 1,
It's not.
Those were the days.
Best of them. I think that's all our topics, though.
It
That's
is.
everything.
That's everything. We hit it all. Lesson learned. So the next podcast will be shorter because we won't have as many topics. But first reviews on the first episode of the podcast, I feel like we covered a lot. Set the
Yeah.
basis for what it's going to be like. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
if you're tuning in, appreciate you for tuning in. Keep your eyes peeled. We're going to try to do this. I'm going to say optimistically every 2 weeks we'll probably release a podcast. It may be more frequently, it may be less frequently, but we're going to shoot for every 2 weeks. So, we hope to catch you on the next one when we get locked and heated.
Sir.